Jake Morrison stood at the main screen of his ship, watching the stars drift by in the darkness of space. The year was 2387, and humanity had finally begun to spread beyond their home solar system. Jake commanded the Terra Nova, one of Earth's newest exploration ships. His job was to find new worlds where humans could live and build colonies. The ship hummed quietly around him as his crew worked at their stations. Lisa Grant sat at the pilot's controls, her fingers dancing across the bright buttons and screens. She had been flying ships for 15 years and could navigate through the most dangerous asteroid fields without breaking a sweat. Ryan Brooks worked at the engineering station, keeping track of the ship's power systems and making sure everything ran smoothly. Amy Turner sat at the communications desk, listening for any signals from other ships or planets. They were exploring the Kepler 442 system, a place where scientists thought they might find planets suitable for human life. The system had 3 planets, but so far none of them looked promising. The first planet was too hot, covered in molten rock and poison gas. The second was too cold, a frozen ball of ice with no atmosphere. The third planet was the right temperature, but it had no water and the air was too thin to breathe. Jake sipped his coffee and studied the data on his screen. After 6 months of searching, they had found nothing useful. The Terra Nova carried supplies for another 3 months, but Jake was starting to think they would have to return to Earth empty-handed. The pressure to find new worlds was enormous. Earth was getting crowded and millions of people were waiting for the chance to start fresh lives on distant planets. Amy suddenly straightened in her chair. "Commander, I'm picking up something strange," she said, adjusting her headset. Jake turned toward her. "What kind of something?" "It's a signal, but it's not like anything in our database. The frequency is completely unknown." Amy's fingers moved quickly across her controls, trying to clean up the signal. "Wait, there's more. It's repeating, but the pattern is broken." Lisa looked over her shoulder. "Could be a pulsar or some other natural phenomenon." "No," Amy shook her head. "This is definitely artificial. Someone or something is transmitting this signal." Jake walked over to Amy's station. "Can you make out what it's saying?" Amy worked for several minutes, running the signal through different filters and translation programs. Gradually, the static began to clear. What they heard next made everyone on the bridge freeze. "Please help. Dying. Children starving. Beg mercy of humans. The words came through in broken English, filled with static and strange clicking sounds, but the meaning was clear enough to send chills down Jake's spine. Someone was calling for help, and they were specifically asking for humans. "That's impossible," Ryan said, leaving his station to join them. "No alien species should know our language. We've never made contact with anyone." Amy continued working on the signal. "There's more. The message keeps repeating, but there are other parts too." She played another section. "Great ships. No power. Plague takes our people. Humble ourselves before young race." Jake felt his heart racing. In all the years of human space exploration, they had never encountered intelligent alien life. Scientists had always wondered if humans were alone in the universe. Now it seemed they had their answer. "Where is the signal coming from?" Jake asked. Lisa checked her navigation systems. "About 2 million kilometers from here. It's coming from something big, much bigger than our ship." "Put it on the main screen," Jake ordered. The view of stars disappeared, replaced by a massive shape floating in space. The alien vessel was enormous, at least 10 times the size of the Terra Nova. It had a strange, angular design unlike anything humans had ever built. Parts of it seemed to be made of some kind of crystal or glass that caught and reflected the light from nearby stars. But many sections were dark, and the ship was obviously in trouble. "It's not moving," Lisa reported. "No power signatures, no engine activity. It's just drifting." Jake studied the alien ship. It was beautiful in its own way, but clearly damaged. He could see holes in the hull and sections that had been torn away. Whatever had happened to these beings, it had been devastating. "Commander," Amy said softly, "the signal is getting weaker." I think their transmitter is running out of power. Jake faced a decision that would change everything. Earth's first contact protocols were clear. Any encounter with alien life should be reported immediately to headquarters. A team of scientists and diplomats would be sent to handle the situation. But that would take months, and the aliens were clearly dying. Tony, what do you think? He was a careful man who always followed regulations. Sir, we should contact Earth immediately. This is way beyond our mission parameters. By the time help arrives, they'll all be dead, Jake replied. Listen to that signal. They're begging for help. They could be dangerous, Tony argued. We don't know anything about them. This could be a trap. Jake looked at the alien ship again. It was clearly powerless and damaged. Whatever these beings had been before, they were now helpless and desperate. Amy, can you send a response? Amy nodded. I can try to transmit on the same frequency. Send this message. This is Commander Jake Morrison of the human ship Terra Nova. We have received your distress call and are coming to help. Sir, Tony said urgently, I strongly advise against this. Jake turned to face his second-in-command. Tony, I understand your concerns. But these beings are dying, and they specifically asked for human help. How can we turn away? Lisa was already adjusting their course. I can have us docked with their ship in 2 hours. Do it, Jake ordered. Ryan, I want you to prepare emergency medical supplies and food rations. Amy, keep trying to establish better communication with them. As the Terra Nova moved toward the alien vessel, Jake felt the weight of history on his shoulders. Humanity's first contact with an alien species was nothing like anyone had imagined. Instead of a proud first meeting between civilizations, it was a desperate rescue mission. The alien ship grew larger on their screens as they approached. Up close, Jake could see that it was even more damaged than he had thought. The crystal-like sections were cracked and darkened, and he could see bodies floating in some of the breached compartments. Whatever had happened to these people, it had been a catastrophe. I'm getting more signals, Amy reported. There are other ships nearby, all in the same condition. It looks like an entire fleet. Jake's heart sank. If there were more ships, that meant more dying aliens. The Terra Nova was just one small exploration vessel. How could they possibly help all of them? We'll do what we can, Jake said firmly. One ship at a time. As they prepared to dock with the alien vessel, Jake couldn't help but wonder what they would find inside. Were these beings truly peaceful, or was Tony right to be suspicious? Would human medicine be able to help them? And most importantly, how would this encounter change humanity's place in the galaxy? The docking clamps engaged with a metallic clang, and Jake knew there was no turning back. Whatever happened next would determine not just the fate of these mysterious aliens, but possibly the future of human civilization itself. All right, people, Jake said to his crew, let's go meet our new neighbors. Jake Morrison stepped through the airlock into the alien ship, his heart pounding with each step. The air was thick and smelled strange, like burned metal mixed with something sweet. Emergency lights flickered weakly along the walls, casting eerie shadows in the corridors. Behind him, Ryan Brooks carried a medical kit while Amy Turner held a portable translator device. The hallways were enormous, clearly built for beings much larger than humans. Strange symbols glowed dimly on the walls, and the floor felt smooth, like polished stone under their boots. As they moved deeper into the ship, Jake began to see the aliens themselves. They were unlike anything he had ever imagined. The creatures were tall, nearly 8 feet high, with bodies that seemed to be made of living crystal. Their skin was translucent and sparkled with inner light, but many of the aliens Jake saw were clearly sick. Their crystal skin was cracked and dark, and some were lying motionless on the floor. A large alien approached them slowly. Unlike the others, this one could still walk, though it moved with obvious pain. When it spoke, the words came out as musical chimes and clicks, but Amy's translator began working immediately. I am Crystallarch Vorthek, leader of what remains of my people, the alien said through the device. You are the humans who answered our call, Jake stepped forward. Yes, I'm Commander Jake Morrison. We came as soon as we received your message. What happened to your people? Vorthic's crystalline body dimmed with sadness. A plague has taken hold of our race. It began on our homeworld 6 cycles ago. Our greatest scientists and healers have tried everything, but nothing works. We are dying, and our children suffer the most. The alien leader gestured toward a large chamber filled with smaller beings. Jake's stomach twisted as he saw young aliens lying still, their crystal bodies barely glowing. Many were so sick they could not move. We have studied your species from afar, Vorthic continued. Your medical knowledge is primitive by our standards, but you have survived plagues that would destroy most races. In our desperation, we have come to beg for your help. Jake felt the weight of the situation. These proud beings had traveled across the galaxy to ask for help from humans they considered less advanced. We'll do everything we can. But first, we need to contact Earth and get our best doctors here. 3 days later, the fastest ship in Earth's fleet arrived at the alien vessels. President Helen Carter had ordered an immediate response after Jake's report reached Earth. The ship carried Earth's finest medical team, led by Dr. Susan Blake, a specialist in infectious diseases who had saved millions of lives during the Martian fever outbreak. Dr. Blake was a small woman with gray hair and intense eyes. She had spent 40 years fighting diseases that others thought were impossible to cure. When she first saw the alien patients, she was amazed by their unique biology. Their bodies are based on silicon instead of carbon like ours, she explained to her team. It's incredible. They're basically living computers made of crystal. Working alongside Dr. Blake was Dr. Kevin Walsh, a young researcher who specialized in new forms of medicine. Dr. Linda Hayes, an expert in alien biology, had joined the team just for this mission. The biochemist Dr. Gary Collins brought equipment that could analyze the alien plague at the molecular level. The good news is that we can communicate with them, Dr. Blake said as she examined a young alien patient. The bad news is that their biology is so different from ours that most of our medicines won't work on them. Dr. Walsh studied samples of the alien blood under a microscope. It's not really blood, he said with excitement. It's more like liquid crystal that carries information throughout their bodies. The plague is attacking this system. For days, the human doctors worked without rest. They analyzed the alien biology, studied the plague, and tested different treatments. The Zephyrians, as they called themselves, watched with growing amazement as the humans threw themselves into the work. Why do they care so much? Vorthik asked Jake one day. We are not their people. We could become their enemies once we are healed. Jake thought about the question. Because you're sick and you need help. That's enough for us. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Dr. Chris Morgan, a specialist in extreme environments, was studying bacteria samples from Earth's deepest oceans. These bacteria lived in conditions that would kill most life forms, and they had developed unique ways to survive. Look at this, Dr. Morgan said excitedly, showing his findings to the team. The plague attacking the Zephyrians is carbon-based, but their bodies are silicon-based. Their immune systems can't even recognize the plague as a threat. Dr. Collins leaned over the data. But these Earth bacteria could potentially fight the plague? They're used to attacking carbon-based organisms in extreme conditions. We could modify them, Dr. Blake said, her eyes lighting up. Create a treatment that uses Earth bacteria to fight the alien plague. The work was delicate and dangerous. The doctors had to modify Earth bacteria so they would work inside silicon-based bodies without causing harm. They tested their treatment on tissue samples first, then on small amounts of the alien blood substitute. Meanwhile, more ships arrived from Earth carrying supplies and volunteers. Captain Beth Martinez organized supply runs working with logistics. Expert Danny Kim to deliver food, water, and medical equipment to the alien fleet. The Zephyrians watched in amazement as humans poured resources into helping them. This is not how civilizations behave, Vorthik told Jake. In our experience, species help others only when they expect something in return. What do you want from us? Jake shrugged. Nothing. You asked for help, and we're giving it. The concept seemed to confuse the alien leader. The Zephyrians had built their entire civilization on strength and conquest. They had never encountered a species that helped others without expecting rewards. Nurse Julie Anderson volunteered to live aboard the alien ships to care for the patients around the clock. She learned to work with the strange alien biology, feeding liquid nutrients to patients who couldn't eat and monitoring their crystal-based vital signs. "They're not so different from us," Julie told Jake one day. "They love their children, they fear death, and they want to live. The rest is just details." Translator Alex Murphy worked day and night to improve communication between humans and aliens. What started as a basic translation program grew into a complex system that could handle the musical language of the Zephyr INS. Dr. Maria Santos, a child psychologist, spent her time with the young aliens who had been traumatized by watching their people die. Even though they were different species, she found that trauma affected them in similar ways to human children. After 2 weeks of constant work, Dr. Blake was ready to test the treatment on living patients. The first volunteer was a young Zephyrian named Christic Thyron, who was so sick he could barely move. "If this doesn't work, I will die anyway," Thyron said through the translator. "I trust the humans to try." The treatment was given slowly, with the human doctors monitoring every change in the alien's condition. For the first few hours, nothing happened. Then, gradually, the dark cracks in Thyron's crystal skin began to fade. His inner light grew brighter, and he was able to sit up for the first time in weeks. "It's working," Dr. Blake said with tears in her eyes. "The Earth bacteria are attacking the plague without harming the host." Word of the successful treatment spread quickly through the alien fleet. The Zephyrians could hardly believe what they were seeing. Their own advanced medicine had failed, but these primitive humans had found a cure using simple Earth bacteria. As more patients received the treatment, the alien ships began to come alive again. Power systems that had been shut down were restarted. The crystal walls began to glow with their natural light. Most importantly, the dying aliens began to recover. Vorthek was among the last to receive the treatment. As the leader, he had insisted that all his people be treated first. When his own crystal skin began to clear and his strength returned, he sought out Jake Morrison. "You have given us back our lives," Vorthek said. "How can we repay this debt?" Jake smiled. "Just get better. That's payment enough." But the Zephyrians' recovery was only the beginning. What happened next would change both species forever and send shockwaves throughout the galaxy that neither humans nor aliens could have predicted. The recovery of the Zephyrians should have been the end of the story. The plague was cured, the aliens were getting better, and both species could go their separate ways. But that was not what happened. Instead, what the humans did next left. The Zephyrians, completely shocked. Captain Beth Martinez stood in the cargo bay of her supply ship, watching her crew load boxes of food, medicine, and equipment. She had been running supplies between Earth and the alien fleet for 3 weeks now, and the requests from the Zephyrians kept growing. "Captain," said Danny Kim, her logistics officer, "we're getting another request from the alien ships. They need more of those protein bars and water purification tablets." Beth nodded. "Load up everything we have. And send a message to Earth requesting another supply run." Danny looked confused. "But Captain, the medical emergency is over. The plague is cured. Why are we still sending supplies?" Beth paused in her work. "Because they still need help. Just because the plague is gone doesn't mean their problems are over. Their ships are damaged, their food supplies are low, and they're still weak from being sick for so long." This was the first thing that shocked the Zephyrians. In their culture, help was given only during emergencies. Once the immediate crisis was over, everyone was expected to take care of themselves. The idea that humans would continue helping after the plague was cured was completely foreign to them. Crystal Arch. Vorthek stood in his command center, watching human ships arrive with more supplies. His advisor, Christic Morvain, approached him with a confused expression. "Commander, the humans are still bringing us aid. The plague is defeated. Why do they continue?" Vorthek studied the data on his screens. "I do not understand it either." Perhaps they expect something in return. But when Vorthek asked Jake Morrison about payment, the human commander just smiled. You don't owe us anything. We're just glad you're feeling better. The second shock came when individual humans began volunteering for long-term assignments. On the alien ships, Julie Anderson, the nurse who had cared for alien patients during the plague, asked to stay permanently. I want to help them learn to take care of themselves, Julie explained to Dr. Blake. Many of them are still weak, and they need someone to teach them proper recovery techniques. Dr. Blake was surprised. That could take months, maybe years? Are you sure you want to stay here that long? Julie looked at the alien patients she had been caring for. These people need help. How can I leave them now? Soon, other humans made similar requests. Alex Murphy, the translator, wanted to stay. To help improve communication between the species, Dr. Maria Santos requested permission to continue working with traumatized alien children. Engineer Ryan Brooks asked to help repair the damaged alien ships. The Zephyrians couldn't understand why humans would volunteer to live among strangers, far from their own people. In Zephyrian culture, loyalty was given only to family and clan. The idea of caring for outsiders was completely alien to them. Young Christic Thyron, the first alien to be cured, approached Julie one day while she was checking on recovering patients. Human Julie, he said through the translator, why do you stay with us? We are not your people. Julie smiled as she adjusted the medical equipment. You're sick people who need help. That makes you my responsibility, but you could return to your ship, to your own kind. You could be comfortable. Julie paused in her work. I am comfortable. I'm doing what I love, helping people who need it. That's enough for me. Thyron's crystal body glowed with confusion. I do not understand. How can caring for strangers bring you joy? Because when you help someone, you make their life better. And when you make someone's life better, it makes your own life better too. The concept was so strange to Thyron that he spent days thinking about it. In his culture, strength came from defeating enemies and taking their resources. But the humans seemed to gain strength from helping others. The third shock came when the humans began sharing their technology freely. Ryan Brooks spent his time teaching Zephyrian engineers how to repair their ships using human techniques. Your crystal technology is amazing, Ryan told Christic Morvain as they worked on a damaged power system. But you've been so focused on making it perfect that you forgot how to fix it when it breaks. Ryan showed the aliens how to use simple tools to repair complex systems. Sometimes the best solution is the simplest one. You don't need to rebuild the entire power core, just replace the damaged section. The Zephyrian engineers were amazed. Their own repair methods required completely rebuilding damaged systems, which took enormous amounts of time and resources. The human approach was faster and more efficient. Why do you teach us this? Morvain asked. This knowledge could make you more powerful. Ryan shrugged. Knowledge is meant to be shared. If we keep it to ourselves, what good does it do? But the sharing went beyond just technical knowledge. The humans taught the aliens about better food preservation, more efficient life support systems, and improved communication methods. They shared everything freely, without asking for anything in return. Vorthek watched this exchange with growing bewilderment. They are making us stronger, he told his advisors. In our culture, this would be seen as foolish. You do not strengthen potential enemies. Perhaps, suggested Christic Morvain, they do not see us as enemies. This was the most shocking concept. Of all, the Zephyrians had built their entire civilization on the assumption that other species were either allies or enemies. The idea that humans might see them as something else entirely was revolutionary. Jake Morrison confirmed this during a meeting with Vorthek. We don't see you as enemies or allies, Jake explained. We see you as people who needed help. Now that you're better, we see you as neighbors. Neighbors? Vorthek's translator struggled with the concept. People who live near you. You don't have to be friends, but you help each other when needed. You share resources, you look out for each other's safety, and you try to get along. The word neighbors didn't exist in the Zephyrian language. They had words for family, clan, allies, and enemies, but nothing for the middle ground that humans seemed to occupy naturally. As the weeks passed, the cultural exchange deepened. Human children from the colony ships played games with young Zephyrians, despite their completely different biologies. The games were simple things that both species could enjoy, like hide-and-seek among the crystal formations on the alien ships. Dr. Santos watched these interactions with fascination. "The children adapt so quickly," she told Jake. "They don't see the differences as barriers, just as interesting variations." The adult Zephyrians watched their children play with human children and felt something they had never experienced before. It was a warm feeling, like their crystal bodies glowing from within. They didn't have a word for it, but humans called it joy. Food sharing became another source of wonder. The humans couldn't eat Zephyrian food, and the aliens couldn't eat human food, but they shared meals anyway. They would sit together, each eating their own food while talking and laughing. "This is very strange," Thyron told Julie during one of these shared meals. "We are eating different foods, but somehow we are eating together." "That's what makes it special," Julie replied. "We're different, but we're still friends." The word friends was another concept that didn't translate well. The Zephyrians had allies who helped them in exchange for help. But friends were people who helped each other just because they liked each other. The most profound shock came when the humans began teaching the Zephyrians about cooperation instead of competition. Ryan Brooks organized joint work crews where humans and aliens worked together to repair ships and equipment. "In our culture," Ryan explained, "we believe that working together makes everyone stronger. When you help someone else succeed, you create a partner instead of a competitor." The Zephyrian engineers were skeptical at first. They had always worked alone or in small family groups. But when they saw how much faster and better the work went when humans and aliens worked together, they began to understand. "The humans are changing us," Vorthek told his council. "Not with force or threats, but with kindness. They are showing us a different way to live. Is this good or bad?" asked one of his advisors. Vorthek looked at his people, who were healthier and happier than they had been in years. "I think it is good, but it frightens me how much we are changing." The transformation was happening faster than anyone expected. The Zephyrians, who had been proud warriors, were learning to be something new. They were learning to be neighbors, friends, and partners. And throughout the galaxy, other species were beginning to take notice of what was happening in the Kepler 442 system. The news of humans saving an alien race was spreading, but more importantly, word was spreading about how humans had changed the aliens themselves. The galaxy was about to discover that humans didn't just cure diseases. They cured entire civilizations. The news traveled fast across the galaxy. Within weeks, every major civilization had heard about the humans who saved the dying Zephyrians. But the story that spread was not just about a medical cure. It was about something much more shocking. In the war rooms of the Corvan Empire, General Zektor studied the reports with growing anger. The Corvans were a military race built for conquest and domination. They had been the galaxy's strongest power for 300 years. "Explain this to me again," Zektor growled to his intelligence officer. "The humans gave their medicine to the Zephyrians for nothing?" "Yes, General. No payment, no trade agreements, no military alliance. They just helped them." Zektor's scaled face twisted with confusion. "That makes no sense. The Zephyrians are warriors. They could become dangerous enemies. Why would anyone make their enemies stronger?" "The reports say the humans don't see them as enemies, sir. They call them neighbors." The general threw the report across the room. "Neighbors? What kind of weak thinking is that? There are only two types of species in this galaxy, those who serve us and those who will serve us eventually." But the Corvan Empire was not the only one watching. The Nexus Collective, a group of traitor species, held their own meetings about the human actions. "This could be very bad for business," said Trade Minister Vex9, a thin creature with multiple arms. "If other species start giving things away for free, how do we make profit?" "Maybe the humans are playing a long game," suggested another traitor. Maybe they expect the Zephyrians to owe them a great debt. But as the weeks passed, it became clear that the humans expected nothing in return. They continued to help the Zephyrians, sharing knowledge and resources freely. This confused the traders even more than it confused the warriors. The real shock came when Captain Elena Rodriguez led a joint mission to the Zephyrian homeworld. The planet was called Zephyr Prime, and it was dying. The plague had spread there first, and billions of aliens were still sick and dying. Elena's ship, the Star Dancer, traveled alongside 3 Zephyrian vessels. The alien ships were now repaired and running well, thanks to human engineering help. But what they found on Zephyr Prime made everyone sick to their stomachs. The planet's great crystal cities were dark and crumbling. Bodies lay in the streets, and the few living Zephyrians were too weak to move. The government had fallen apart, and no one was organizing relief efforts. How many people live here? Elena asked Crystallarch Vorthak. Before the plague, there were 12 billion Zephyrians on this world, Vorthak replied sadly. Now, perhaps, 1 billion remain alive. Dr. Blake, who had joined the mission, was horrified. We have medicine that can cure them. Why isn't anyone distributing it? Our government follows the old ways, explained Christic Thyron. They believe that accepting help from outsiders is weakness. They would rather die with honor than live with shame. Elena couldn't believe what she was hearing. They're letting people die because they're too proud to accept help. It is our way, Vorthak said quietly, or it was our way. You humans have shown us that there might be another path. The Zephyrian government was led by War Master Zalthan, an old warrior, who had fought in dozens of battles. When the human ships arrived at the planet, he refused to meet with them. Tell the aliens to leave, Zalthan commanded his subordinates. We do not need their pity. But Dr. Blake and her team didn't wait for permission. They began setting up medical stations in the worst-hit areas, treating any Zephyrian who came to them. The work was dangerous because many of the local warriors saw the humans as invaders. Dr. Nicole Davis was working in a refugee camp when a group of Zephyrian soldiers surrounded her. Their leader, a scarred warrior named Christic Vorthex, pointed his energy weapon at her. Leave this place, alien, Vorthex demanded. We do not want your help. Dr. Davis looked at the dying Zephyrians around her. These people need medicine. I can save them. Better to die with honor than live as beggars. What honor is there in letting children die? Dr. Davis asked, pointing to a group of young Zephyrians who were barely breathing. What honor is there in watching your own people suffer when help is available? The warrior hesitated. His own son was among the dying children. Our way is strength. Your way is weakness. Then why are your people dying while mine are trying to save them? The question hit Vorthex like a physical blow. He had been taught his entire life that strength came from fighting and conquering. But here was a small human female, unarmed and alone, doing something he could not do, saving his people. Dr. Brandon Scott was working in another part of the city when he encountered similar resistance. But instead of arguing with the warriors, he simply continued treating patients. When the warriors saw their loved ones recovering, many of them began to question their beliefs. The humans ask for nothing, one warrior told his commander. They just help our people get better. It must be a trick, the commander replied. No one helps enemies for free. But what if we are not enemies? What if we could be something else? These conversations were happening all over the planet. Young Zephyrians, especially those who had been saved by human medicine, began to organize their own relief efforts. They formed groups to distribute food and medicine, copying the human methods they had observed. Christic Thyron, who had traveled to the planet with the humans, became a leader of this new movement. He and other reformed Zephyrians began teaching their people about cooperation and mutual aid. We have been strong through war for so long that we forgot how to be strong through peace, Theron told a gathering of young Zephyrians. The humans have shown us that there is power in helping others. The old warriors were outraged. You speak of weakness and call it strength, War Master Zalthan declared. You have been corrupted by alien thinking. Then let us prove which way is stronger, Thirin challenged. You follow the old path of letting people die with honor? We will follow the new path of keeping people alive with dignity. In 1 year, we will see which method saves more lives. The Stalin split Zephyrian society. Half the population followed the old ways, refusing human help and maintaining their warrior traditions. The other half embraced the new ideas, working alongside humans to save lives and rebuild their civilization. The transformation was so dramatic that it caught the attention of the entire galaxy. Other species sent observers to watch what was happening on Zephyr Prime. What they saw frightened many of them. The Corvan Empire was particularly disturbed. The humans are more dangerous than we thought, General Zektor told his war council. They don't conquer with weapons, they conquer with ideas. Should we attack them? Asked one of his officers. Not yet. But we must watch them carefully. If their ideas spread to other species, it could undermine our entire way of life. Meanwhile, neutral species began to reconsider their own policies. The Stellar Federation, a group of peaceful worlds, sent ambassadors to study human behavior. They wanted to understand how humans could be so successful at helping others. Their methods are primitive, reported Ambassador Keth-2, but their results are remarkable. They have transformed a warrior race into something new. Is this good or bad for the galaxy? Asked the Federation Council. I do not know, the ambassador replied, but I think we are about to find out. The most surprising development came from within the Zephyrian fleet itself. The aliens who had been traveling with humans began to adopt human customs and beliefs. They started working in teams instead of alone. They shared resources freely. Most shocking of all, they began to care about the welfare of other species. When a Corvan trading ship suffered engine failure near the Zephyrian fleet, the aliens immediately offered help. This was unprecedented. The Zephyrians had never helped non-Zephyrians before. Why did you help us? Asked the confused Corvan captain. Because you needed help, replied Christic Morvain simply. Is that not reason enough? The Corvan captain returned to his empire with a disturbing report. The Zephyrians are acting like humans now. They help strangers for no reward. They share their resources freely. They are becoming soft. But General Zektor saw the deeper threat. They are not becoming soft. They are becoming something else entirely. And if this spreads, it will destroy everything we have built. The galaxy was beginning to divide into two camps, those who followed the old ways of strength and conquest, and those who were curious about the new human ideas of cooperation and mutual aid. War was coming, but it would not be fought with weapons. Alone, it would be fought with ideas about how civilizations should treat each other, and at the center of it all were the humans, who had started this revolution simply by answering a call for help. The attack came without warning on a Tuesday morning, Earth time. Admiral Jake Morrison, now in command of the human fleet, was having breakfast with Crystal Arch Vorthak when the alarm started screaming. Multiple contacts jumping into the system, reported Communications Officer Amy Turner. Corvan Empire ships, at least 50 of them. Jake rushed to the bridge of his flagship, the New Hope, through the main screen. He could see the massive Corvan war fleet approaching. Their ships were dark and angular, built for destruction. At their head was the dreadnought Conquest, commanded by General Zektor himself. They're not responding to our communication attempts, Amy reported. Wait, I'm getting something now. General Zektor's scaled face appeared on the screen, his eyes burning with hatred. Humans of Earth, you have spread your poison throughout this galaxy long enough. Your ideas of weakness and cooperation end today. Jake stepped forward. General, we don't want to fight you. We're here on a peaceful mission. Peaceful? Zektor laughed, a harsh sound like grinding metal. You have corrupted an entire warrior race. You have made them soft and weak. This cannot be allowed to continue. The Zephyrians chose their own path, Jake replied. We didn't force them to do anything. You infected them with your human disease of caring for others. Now we must cleanse the galaxy of this infection before it spreads further. The communication ended, and the Corvan ships began moving into attack formation. Jake's fleet was outnumbered 3-1, and the human ships were exploration vessels, not warships. "Sir," called out pilot Lisa Grant, "the Corvan ships are targeting our medical facilities first." "They're going after the hospitals." Jake's blood ran cold. There were thousands of recovering Zephyrians in those medical stations, along with human doctors and nurses who had volunteered to help them. "All ships protect the medical facilities," Jake ordered. "We cannot let them harm the patients." The human ships moved to defend the hospitals, but they were outgunned. The Corvan weapons were designed for conquest, while the human ships carried only basic defensive systems. Just as the first Corvan shots were fired, space around them lit up with new arrivals. Dozens of Zephyrian ships jumped into the system, their crystal hulls glowing like stars. General Zektor was shocked. "The Zephyrians? They should be staying neutral or joining us against the humans." But Crystallarch Vorthek's voice came over. The communication system broadcast to every ship in the system. "Warriors of the Corvan Empire, you attack our friends and neighbors. This we cannot allow." "Friends?" Zektor snarled. "You are warriors, not nursemaids to weak aliens. Remember your heritage." "We remember our heritage," Vorthek replied. "But the humans have taught us that true strength comes from protecting others, not destroying them." The Zephyrian ships moved into formation alongside the human vessels. Young Christic Theron commanded one of the Zephyrian cruisers, and his voice joined the communication. "We have learned much from our human neighbors," Theron said. "We have learned that helping others makes us stronger, not weaker. We will not let you destroy those who saved us." The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. It was not just humans against Corvans, or even humans and Zephyrians against Corvans. Ships from neutral species began arriving to join the fight. The Stellar Federation sent 3 vessels. "The humans saved our colony from the Red Plague last year," explained Captain Vex 7. "We owe them a debt." A group of independent traders arrived next. "The humans always pay fair prices and never cheat us," said their leader. "They treat us with respect." Even some species that had never met humans before joined the battle. They had heard stories of human kindness and wanted to protect the beings who helped others freely. General Zektor watched his advantage disappear as more ships arrived. "This is impossible. Species don't help each other like this. There's no profit in it." "That's exactly the point," said Captain Elena Rodriguez, who was commanding a human cruiser. "Some things are more important than profit." The tide of battle turned when an unexpected ally arrived. A small fleet of Corvan ships jumped into the system, but instead of joining General Zektor, they positioned themselves with the humans. "Traitors!" Zektor roared. "You betray your own empire!" The leader of the rebel Corvans was Captain Kex 9, a young officer who had been watching the human actions with growing interest. "No, General. We are trying to save our empire from its own stupidity." "How dare you? Our colonies are dying from the void sickness," Kex 9 interrupted. "Our scientists cannot cure it." "But the humans could help us if we asked. Instead, you choose war over healing." The battle raged across the system, but it was clear that the alliance of different species was winning. The human strategy was not to destroy the Corvan ships, but to disable them and rescue their crews. "Take prisoners, don't take lives," Jake ordered. "These people are not our enemies. They're just afraid of change." This approach confused the Corvans, who were used to battles where the losers died. When human ships rescued Corvan pilots from damaged vessels, many of the Corvan warriors began to question what they were fighting for. The climax came when General Zektor's flagship was surrounded and disabled. Instead of finishing him off, Jake Morrison boarded the ship personally with a small team. Zektor was wounded, but still defiant. "You should kill me now, human. I will never stop fighting your way of life." Jake knelt beside the injured general and began treating his wounds. "I'm not here to kill you. I'm here to help you." "Why?" Zektor gasped. "I tried to destroy everything you've built, because you're hurt and you need help," Jake said simply. "That's enough." The general stared at Jake in amazement as the human worked to save his life. Around them, other humans were helping wounded Corvans, giving them medical aid and treating them with respect. "I don't understand you people," Zektor whispered. "You win battles by making friends of your enemies." "We don't see enemies," Jake replied. "We see people who are afraid and angry. Fear and anger can be healed, just like any other injury." The aftermath of the battle changed everything. News of the alliance spread throughout the galaxy faster than any military conquest ever had. Species that had been enemies for centuries began talking to each other. Trade routes that had been closed for generations reopened. The Galactic Council, which had been dominated by military powers for thousands of years, was reformed with new principles. Ambassador Carol Hughes represented Earth in the new council, where decisions were made through cooperation instead of force. The old ways were about taking what you wanted through strength, Carol explained to the assembled ambassadors. The new way is about getting what you need by helping others get what they need. Captain Kex-9's rebellion spread throughout the Corvan Empire. Within a year, the militaristic government was replaced by one that focused on healing and cooperation. The void sickness that had been killing Corvan colonies was cured using human medical techniques. "We spent so much energy on building weapons that we forgot to take care of our own people," Kex-9 told Jake during a peace conference. "You humans reminded us what's really important." The transformation of the Zephyrians became complete when War Master Zalthan finally asked for human help. The old warrior had watched his people suffer while the reformed Zephyrians thrived, and he could no longer deny which path was better. "I have been wrong," Zalthan admitted to Crystal Arch Vorthak. "Strength without compassion is not strength at all. It is just brutality." Trade between species increased dramatically as the new cooperation took hold. Scientific discoveries were shared freely, leading to advances that benefited everyone. Diseases that had plagued entire worlds for centuries were cured through joint research projects. Dr. Susan Blake, now director of the Galactic Health Organization, stood in her office looking out at a view she never could have imagined. Through her window, she could see ships from dozens of different species working together to build a new medical research station. "Who would have thought," she said to Dr. Kevin Walsh, "that answering one distress call would change the entire galaxy?" The Zephyrians asked for medical help, Dr. Walsh replied, "but what they really needed was hope. And that's something humans have always been good at sharing." 5 years after the first contact, Admiral Jake Morrison returned to the Kepler 442 system where it all began. The space around the former battlefield was now filled with peaceful ships from hundreds of species, all working together on various projects. Crystal Arch Vorthak, now serving as the Galactic Council's Minister of Cooperation, met Jake at the memorial they had built to commemorate the transformation. "Do you ever regret answering our call for help?" Vorthak asked. Jake smiled as he watched human children playing with young aliens from a dozen different species. "How could I regret this? You asked for help with a plague, and we ended up curing something much bigger." "What did we cure?" "Loneliness," Jake replied. "For the first time in galactic history, no one has to face their problems alone." The memorial plaque read simply, "Here, aliens begged for help. Humanity's reaction shocked them. The galaxy has never been the same." But perhaps the most important change was not visible on any memorial. It was in the minds and hearts of countless beings who had learned that the greatest strength came not from conquering others, but from lifting them up.